Yeah, I was going to say good morning then. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet. No introduction this evening. I was just explaining to Gary that's because I fell asleep and forgot to do the little intro thing. So fortunately, I woke up in time, and here we are. So anyway, let me introduce Gary for those of you who don't know Gary, and those of you who do, of course. Gary, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very, very good. How are you doing apart from being a little sleepy?
Well, I'm all right now. I had a nice little snooze. So.
Very good. That's your wonderful power nap. Call it power nap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your management about it.
It's one of those things, I think, that I suppose a few years ago, I was just, well, once I met Maria, because she's the king of, or queen of napping, I should say. It's just like, it's one of those things that you can allow yourself. I think as you get to a certain age, you just think, yeah, why not? I can just have a nap. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Whereas when I was younger, I always felt like I was wasting time, and now it's just like, no, it's an end to itself. It's fine.
You're using your time to recharge your batteries properly. Exactly. It's a good use of time.
And recharging your batteries is a good thing. We'll come to that later. But anyway, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Let's see who we have. We've got Adrian. We've got David Markey. We've got David of the Valleys. Oh, I'm going to go do my multiple Davids now. We've got Graham. Good to see you guys. Graham Green, yes, member for 25 months. Thank you, Graham. That's much appreciated. We've got World War II scale models, Dave. So our third Dave so far. So Graham Green and Graham Ball. So we've got Dave's and Graham so far. We've got Stuart. Let's see. People saying hello, which is always nice to see. You've got Craig. Good evening, Craig. So if you saw I think it was last night's, video 2 on Telford, I did. There's a 1/200 scale Yamato in there, which is what Craig spends his time doing often on a Friday evening, Scale Modeling Live. It's funny because you see it when Craig's doing it and Craig's showing the whole thing. You still don't get the scale of it. When I saw it at Telford, it was just like, oh God, that thing's absolutely enormous. It's like a small canoe. We've got Simon's Modelling Shed. Good to see you. Got Julian. We have who's got snow? Oh God, don't tempt fate, Simon. It's supposed to be snowing at some point, but no, it can stay. It can stay non-snowy as far as I'm concerned for a little bit longer.
We had snow this morning.
Oh really? Oh no, we're not quite there yet. I think it was about -2 points today, but it hasn't snowed, thankfully. Fingers crossed. Yeah. John Amick, good evening to you, sir. Scrolling up a little bit more, we've got Phil, we've got Jonex. We have Steve Hoare, good to see you. We've got Martin Willis. I hesitated a little bit there because I'm using dark mode on StreamYard. And yet I've got a light just down here. So it's kind of in my face. So the contrast. Yes.
What are you looking at?
If only you knew the power of dark mode. We've got Mark Start. It's going to be one of those evenings I can feel. Got Marty Willis. Got Dave Fairclough, a fourth Dave. We've got Black Scoop Quirks. Good to see you. And I think that brings us pretty much up to present. 12 centimeters of snow in the Dales.
Gee.
Wow, that's why I don't live in the Dales.
Yeah.
I knew there's a reason. It's beautiful, but it's bleak.
Definitely.
Anyway, Good evening, everybody. So, midweek model meet today is going to follow in the vein of my Telford videos. So I've been very, what's the word? Measured, I'm going to say, in putting out my Telford videos. So I kind of needed a bit of a week to recover, I think. And I started putting them out. First one was Sunday, and say the second one, Hall 2, dropped last night. The last haul will be tomorrow, and then the competition stuff will be Friday. Excuse me. Now, one of the reasons that I did that is because obviously I took a lot of footage because as I said to you guys before I went, I wanted to kind of give you the complete walk around as though you were going yourself. So I tried to take a fairly measured, and I still had to be fairly quick. You know, you'll see, like in going by a table, I go by a table like in a few seconds. I still had something like 2 hours of footage in total. Of course, I do edit it for you guys a little bit. I take out all those bits where there's somebody standing, chatting to somebody. So if you see I'm going up to some models, then it fades out, and then you see the models from the other angle, and then it pans around. It's usually because someone's doing that. I don't want to be a dick and, you know, like stand there like, you know, oh, can I come past? I just go around people, you know. It's like,
excuse me, His Majesty's press.
I got my hat with my press ticket in the side. Yeah. Look at this.
Stand aside, sir.
Somebody did suggest that on the door. He said you should have like a little hat with a press pass in it. Just like, that's not a bad idea. So yeah, 2 hours of footage, and that was just mainly, I must say, in the morning. So as mentioned, I got it with a press pass, so that's from 8 o'clock, the same time that you get in if you are, you know, at a stand. Because I think you were with Models for Heroes.
I was all over the place, really. I actually got in through Ben Davizio in his SSNAP Stig, but I spent most of the time with. But I did get a press pass for the Saturday anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're on a stand, if you're trade, or if you are, you know, something to do with the show, you know, in some way, club stand, whatever, you get in at 8 o'clock. I think actually trade can get in a bit earlier, but I mean, even last year when I was on the stand, I didn't go earlier because it's like 8 o'clock's early enough.
Yep.
And this year, I think was the first year that the show closed at 6 on the Saturday. All right with that, Kerry?
I've no idea. Actually, I can't remember. I've shut off the previous years, completely blanked them from my memory.
That's it. So, you know, you get in at 8. If you were to stay till 6, that's a long day. That's a long old day, you know. So I didn't do that. I wasn't going to be there for 10 hours. So obviously, a lot of the time you're stopping and chatting to people as well. So obviously I cut all of that out. So, I mean, we chatted, I don't know, for what, 10 minutes or something, Gary, when I saw you.
Yeah,
yeah, it's about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. And it's easy to lose track of time when you're talking to people, right? Especially if you haven't seen them for a long time, or you've not seen them in person before. That's quite a common thing. You know, you can spend quite a lot of time talking, which I think, for me, personally, is one of the highlights of the show.
Oh, right? Totally.
It is going and meeting people. I think it was... No, I'd already met you at the Airfix...
Yeah, we've met in there.
Speaking day, haven't I? Yeah. But it is, you know, I've met a lot of people for the first time at Telford or other shows, and that's really good. So the time aspect is one piece, and so one of the things I wanted to kind of rewind and sort of explain the premise of the show, as I kind of got started and then got sidetracked, because I'm very easily sidetracked, as you may have noticed in the past. It's really a bit of talking about Telford and how it was, which is, you know, all well and good. But I wanted to kind of talk to people who have been to Telford, who are thinking about going to Telford, about how you survive Telford, right? Which sounds a silly thing to say, but actually, I mean, I can't remember how many times I've been to the Scale Model World show. it must be at least 10, probably more than 10 times. This was actually the first time, and I'm used to going to big exhibitions. I've been to the San Diego neuroscience convention, I think it was. But San Diego Convention Center is absolutely huge. It's like, if you've not been to an American convention center, the scale of them is staggering. So I'm used to those big events. But this year was one of the first years I just felt absolutely overwhelmed with it. And I mentioned at the end of the last video, I had to just get out. I needed to charge my phone as well, but it was a nice excuse just to spend 15 minutes out of it. And I think that's an aspect that people don't really discuss, is like preparing for the show and how to get the best out of it. I mean, in your kind of experience, Gary, what was your first experience like, and how do you sort of cope with the now 2 days or more at the show?
Well, the first time I did, I had a mate along with me, which was what, 3 years ago, and we just went up and down in a day, so we could rush around, see what we wanted to see. And yeah, I was pretty new to sort of this side of the model making experience, the YouTubing stuff as well. So it was all kind of a bit new and exciting, but I was only there for a day, so we made what we could of it, drove off home, had dinner on the way back, and it was fine. This last one, it was actually, I was more excited about this one than the last two, I think, because there were so many things that I was interested in that were going to be there, and people I wanted to talk to who were going to be there, that I knew were going to be there. So we had the Courtier breakfast, the Project Halifax thing on Sunday. Which
nice.
We got, as well as Airfix announcing something big, you got like some DBMK with their new stuff. So it seems to me this time there's a lot of new big stuff, if you like. There's a lot of new high ticket price stuff, which is always encouraging in a hobby that's supposed to be massively on the decline. When you see something like this, some of these guys coming up, and these guys are not stupid. These guys are intelligent and creative business people who have done their background work and say, no, we can make an impact here. And they're doing it sensibly rather than going full out. Right, we're taking on Tamiya, we're taking on Airfix, we're taking on ICM, we're taking on the world. It's like, right, no, this is our little niche. We'll expand on that niche later, but let's just see how we go with this. And there's a lot going on like that, and it's brilliant to see. So that was cool. That was really cool. And having sort of being the home base of a stand which had plenty of hobnob biscuits at hand was absolute, and also within shouting distance of the bar was brilliant. That was very helpful. So plenty of refreshment around.
I did partake in a hobnob.
Good man.
They are the king of biscuits. But before we start a controversy, and for any American viewers, a biscuit is not something you have with gravy. That's what we would call a dumpling, which kind of looks like a dry scone. But anyway, a biscuit is what you would call a cookie, and a hobnob is the king of them. So there we go.
Definitely.
It's my stream, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So seriously,
I was exhausted on the second day we were there. I was walking around with Mikey, from Bearded Veteran Creates. We were walking around. We came up to one of the second-hand stands, and there was something near the floor that looked interesting. We were both looking at it, trying to figure out what the price is. And he said, "Well, I can't get down there to see what the price is." I said, "Well, I can get down there, but I ain't getting back up again, mate. I'm sorry." Physically, this was a lot more punishing than previous years. I have to say, I felt absolutely exhausted after the end of Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, how did you find it? You say the first time you went just for one day. How was that? Because I've done the show in a day, and I did it in a day after being for. No, I went for a day first and then went for 2 days. And then I think I went back a couple of years later and just did a day. And I felt I'd made a mistake.
Probably we wouldn't have seen as much as we wanted to, probably. But then I think both of us were just up there, a couple of mates, day out, a bit of chat, a bit of catching up. Oh, and by the way, we happened to be at a big model show. It wasn't really as focused as, go and check out all the stands, go and check out all the suppliers, go and check out all the clubs and the SIGs and see what everyone else is doing. It was a very much more a sort of, well, here we are, let's wander around. Oh, do you fancy a beer then? It was a much more relaxed sort of, there was no intent there really to do anything serious other than say, well, I wonder what this is all about. Having then seen it, you realise, oh boy, this is somewhat bigger than I imagined. It's not 3 church halls, it's 3 proper exhibition halls full. There's a lot to see. So we caught up with a few bits and pieces that we needed to, and then fine. But this time you just feel, no, I need to go and talk to those guys, I need to chat with them. I really want to go and see what they're doing. I've heard they've got some really good stuff on their table and stuff like that. It was a lot more. There's a bigger list of things to tick off than the first time you go there, when it's just like, well, let me see what's here,
I mean, I must admit, I didn't stay for the full extent of both days, partially because it was very intense for me. So I was doing stuff all the time I was there. And as I say, I felt absolutely exhausted. So I didn't feel like I saw everything. I think you could say to me, "Oh, did you see X, Y, and Z?" And I'd be like, "No." I might have got it on my videos. I'd have to watch them back and see. I did take time, and I think this is one of my takeaways from the whole thing, and what my recommendations will be for Telford. I did just take some time out for myself where I wasn't doing any filming. I deliberately didn't do any of that, and I just meandered and looked at the things I wanted to look at. And I think that's, probably with your first experience, going for the day and just, not taking it too seriously, not trying to do everything, not having that intense experience is quite a good way to do it, because it takes that pressure off. Because I think you can feel the pressure as, I've got to see everything. And that's a big ask. I think it's a big ask. If you're going to think, okay, I'm going to go to every stall, I'm going to try and get some, some rare kits or secondhand bargains. So I want to see all that. I want to try and get some, show offers, for Jadlam or Wonderland or, Hannants or wherever. Plus I want to see all of the club stands. I want to have a good look at that. I want to see the competition. I want to do some of the activities, because there are activities to do there as well. There are some talks, like you mentioned, the Qatari breakfast thing. So they have like a separate room or set of rooms that they do. There's like a little program where you can go. Last year, Valeria gave a talk from ICM. I mean, there's loads of other things, but I mean, you need to pick and choose. You need to accept you can't see it all, and remain sane, I would suggest. I think you need to kind of have a bit of my own opinion, I think you either go one of two ways. You either have a full plan of what you want to tick off. These are the things that I want to do here, and anything else is a bonus. Or the exact opposite, go with no intent and just go where the breeze blows you.
Just soak it in.
And just soak it in. I think those are the two ways to really approach it and not feel at the end of it like underwhelmed, like, oh, I didn't really, get what I wanted, or overwhelmed in like there was just too much. Because I think both's possible.
But it's also very different if like for the two of us, it's essentially work. I'm going there for work. So I have to go in there with a set of objectives. And so like I had to go on Friday to see what Airfix were doing and film whatever they were releasing, as it turned out, the BF109. So I could get all of my filming done on that, then get back to the accommodation, do the edit, do the upload so it's there in the evening, and get back the next day. hit a few more things. Interview Dale on Sunday. Chat with the guys at DBMK. Chat with these guys over here. Go to chat. Yeah, it's these things, and I knew that I was never going to see everything there. It's just no point in me even thinking of looking at every stand and every table, because I'm just not there to do that. And it's just me. That's why I had to do it, because I'm sure if I'd have tried to look at absolutely everything, I'd have driven myself absolutely crazy. I'd have driven myself into the ground. By Sunday, I'd be carried out on a stretcher.
Yeah.
Probably with the camera still going, yeah, guys, here it is. This is the ambulance. It's a Leyland Model 27. It would just be.
That'd make great footage, Gary. You should do that.
It'd be straight jacket time. It really would. It'd be terrible, absolutely terrible. And I wouldn't enjoy it. I went there with two intents. A, there was some work stuff I wanted to do, and B, I wanted to enjoy the experience, be with some mates from M4H and other people who are generous enough to come along and say hi, which was lovely. It's always nice to see people who view your content, you chat with, and you kind of get to know them a bit, and then this person comes up and you look absolutely nothing like what I imagined. But you don't tell them that, obviously. For better or worse, I don't know, it could be. And they always think, you look so much smaller on the screen. Well, yeah, I'm that big on the screen, dude. That's the way screens work.
For those of you who don't know, Gary's a pretty tall guy.
Yeah. I'm fairly tall, yeah. But it's nice. Huh?
I say I am the national average. I'm 5'9", so I am.
Right, cool.
I'm the top of the normal peak, right?
Okay.
5'9", 80 kilos. Kind of. I'm the definition of normal and boring. So if somebody's, I tend to think, as everybody tends to think, of the world as being about the same size. I'm generally right. So I can generally tell when people are taller or smaller, because it's taller and smaller than me. Gary's tall. I'm
about 6'2", 6'3", depending on the time of day.
It gradually gets smaller as it goes.
Oh yeah, shrink during the day. Definitely shrink during the day. But that's it. It's such a, you see great people, you say interesting things, but I think you do have to pace yourself, and you can't go in there going, right, I've got to do everything. No, because it's only 2 days and you won't.
I mean, I got in.
You can't take all of that in 2 days.
Yeah, I think people. I mean, biologically, I just don't think we're designed. We're not designed, obviously, but we haven't evolved to absorb that kind of information in that short space of time. We are very much, still hunter-gatherers. You are programmed to, like, where's your way out? Where's the food? It's kind of prioritized stuff, and there's just so much stuff there that it becomes difficult. I actually found as I said on the video, 11:15 on that first day, been there since 8, so that's 3.25 hours of just going around. I'd had enough of plastic. It's like you can get to a stage where it's like, I don't want to see another model. But I still went on till about 3:30 that day. But I think, you are not designed psychologically to just keep taking it in, and it all becomes a bit of a melange, which I think does a massive disservice to everybody, as people would have seen on my videos, or Gary's videos, and everybody else that's covered the show. There's a fabulous array of models, and the breadth now is more than it's ever been. I mean, there was a time when it was very restricted. You wouldn't see a Games Workshop model. You would see some figures, but they tended to be busts. It was tended to be, historics and World War II, World War I, very, very military centric, whereas now, I mean, there's one of my favorite aircraft that I saw in the whole show, and I spotted it fairly early, and I came back and photographed it. It'll be on the video tomorrow, or the fourth one, I can't remember. There was an F-22, and it was done in pink manga.
Nice.
Kind of finish, and it just stuck with me because it was different. It was this contrast. It was beautifully done. The execution was flawless on a club stand. And you can see competition quality stuff on the club stands throughout. So of course the stuff which is, you know, exceptional almost tends to get pushed down because there are such a wide breadth and such a high standard across the show. You know, you can just like, oh yeah, another amazing, you know, aircraft stroke tank stroke whatever, and you just gloss it over. Whereas if that was on a little show at your local church hall, you'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing. So it does have that aspect of being so big. And because it's so big, you tend to underestimate scale as well, I found. So I want to go back to a point you made earlier, Gary, and just talk about some of the releases. And one of them, well, actually, I watching back my own footage on the one I did yesterday at the end, I filmed myself after I'd got out at that 11:15 bit. And I mentioned the Zokumura stand and the KI 100. And I said, I think it was 48 scale. It might have been 132nd. It was 132nd. But because it's in such a huge setting, it's like, it kind of makes everything look small. So,
definitely,
you know, 172nd scale models, you don't really, I'm sorry, 172nd modelers, but there's so many of them and they are quite small in that setting. They kind of just become background. You know, the things you notice tend to be the 132nd, the 124th, the 1/8 scale cars and stuff. You know, they're very unusual, like the pink F-22, the thing that, you know, grabs your attention. It's that, you know, evolutionary. This is unusual, you know. The pink F-22, my brain was like, that must be poisonous. Pay attention to that, you know. Not all the camouflage stuff. That's all fine. Those are herbivores. So yeah, it does diminish it. But getting back to the new stuff, obviously we have the 124 scale BF 109 from Airfix. I think that's been talked about quite a lot. You've done a video.
I should say that even 5 of those on Airfix's stand,
they
didn't look impressive. They didn't look over-oral.
No,
you know, it's like, yeah, they're great, they're beautiful, and there are 5 of them, but they looked smaller than they actually are because of that. Exactly what you say. They're on a big stand in a massive hall, amongst lots of other stuff. And I mean,
that display from the Airfix stand. There isn't a wall in my house that is long enough to have the Airfix stand in.
Yeah,
you know, it could have had part of it. It could have had the table with the. You could probably get 2 of the tables. This conservatory is pretty long. It's about 15 feet long, I think, 7 feet wide. You could have easily got like 2 of the display tables there with their stuff on. But it would fill like one side of this conservatory, and then everything would look big.
Absolutely.
Because it's smaller, right? You know,
yeah.
You wouldn't hold a model show in my conservatory, although I've got enough models piled here probably to have a show. But you know, we had the 109G, which, you know, you put out a very early video. Moss did an interview with Dale and showed the sprues. Airfix were very kind in. They were actually having their morning briefing on the Saturday when I went, and Dale was just like, "Oh, that box is for you. If you just want to," I'm just like, "Take it away, yeah." And he's like, "Rummage through it." And I was like, and he was never seen again.
Yeah.
But you know, we were just allowed to go rifle through it, which is where I took all the pictures of the instructions, all the other bits. So there's been a lot of focus on that. But as you said, Gary, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of new stuff at Scale Model World this year. I think more than I've seen, I think in any year, really. I think to rival it, you'd have to go back to the 90s when Revell were really churning out new stuff a lot. And I say the Zokumura, which again, first time I've seen Zokumura from Japan. You know, so we had people from Japan. Qatari, as you mentioned, came from New Zealand. So there was really good representation. The Hong Kong Model Club, I think, was there as well, doing some Gundam stuff. But the Zokumura stuff looked really nice. That KI 100, I mean, typically Zokumura, but it looked fantastic. and they did have like made up, but no interior because like it was all sprayed grey. A Mustang, but a B. I think it was B-stroke C Mustang, or P51, I should say. So, what was the new things that you spotted, Gary?
Hearing that Codere are doing a P47 in a few years' time was quite exciting.
Yeah. And the E version of the 109, I noticed.
And the 109E, yes.
It was just kind of there, this little leaflet. They didn't kind of really.
Yeah.
I like the way Codere are very, very low key. It's very New Zealand kind of.
They're pretty chilled about stuff,
Yeah.
They're just like.
They're kind of like an English version of Australia, aren't they?
Yeah.
Australia's English.
Yeah. We're going to do a 148th Halifax. It's no big deal.
Yeah. It kind of is.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be big. So
I saw, obviously seeing the Sea Fury and the Hornet on DBMK standards. Nice to see that they're doing a Seahawk soon as well. I think the next one out after the Sea Fury and the Hornet's going to be the F11 F Tiger. I know they're working on an F105D, I think, as well in 148th, which will be quite big. So they're thinking, they're already. I think they've taken a long time to come to market with their first product. I think the Sea Fury is January. It'll finally get to market. But along the way, they've started things off as they've gone. So although the first one takes some years, the next one is 6 months down the line because they've already done the other 2.5 years and so on and so forth. I think they've got a release schedule that's quite cool. I think going to high pressure molding completely means that they'll probably be able to do, I think probably not in Ukraine, basically. Means it's more reliable to get them to doing stuff. They're still using Ukraine for 3D print though, which is excellent. There was one thing I did see, which I really liked. Aircraft, Ali from Aircraft had a 1/32nd scale Martin Baker MB3. He's done them in 48th and 72nd.
Oh, right. I didn't see that.
Amazing thing. It had 6 20mm cannon in the wings. I mean, not messing about fighter prototype. There's a Napier Sabre engine, the same as a Typhoon, but never got to production. But he's upscaled it and then done more detailing. So it's got some incredible interior detailing in it. And it's all resin, all 3D print. My 148th one went together so quickly. And I thought, I've got to get one of these. So now he's got things like brass rods in the undercarriage to strengthen it and stuff like that. That was pretty cool, seeing someone's taking the time to produce things like that. It's a relatively small company. It's taking those risks on and saying, okay, we've got the 48th. Well, why don't we upscale it? But that means we've then got to do this. Well, let's do it then. Let's do it. It's nice seeing copper state models there as well with all their stuff. That was pretty cool.
I just have to quickly address a comment here. Says, saying Kiwis are more like British, that's very brave. So my best man was a Kiwi, so I'm well familiar with their trigger points. But generally they're Anglophiles and they're pretty chill. So I feel pretty safe. The
only thing I saw that I thought, why are you doing that, was the Trumpeter doing a 148th Buccaneer S2D. So it's a late model Buccaneer. I thought, why doing that? I suppose for their market, the FX1 is too expensive, too difficult to get hold of.
They probably can't get it,
and things like that. So I thought, well, we'll do our own one.
I think Trumpeter just do whatever the hell they want. I don't think they look at the rest of the world at all. Or the Yongshan Yatai Electric Company Group, as their full name is. I mean, Trumpeter, Hobby Boss, I Love Kit. They do some random stuff. I mean, firstly, they announce a whole bunch of stuff, some of which comes out, some of which never comes out, some of which comes out like 3 years late rather. And then whilst everybody's waiting for the stuff that hasn't come out for a couple of years, they'll just produce something that they haven't announced at all. It's just like, it's like, does anybody in marketing talk to anybody in production
No.
at all?
No, they don't. No, they
not really.
don't. It's cool. It was cool to see some test frames from the ICM Hampden as well.
Yeah, I must admit, I was slightly disappointed. Not because it's a good kit. Okay, guys, don't shoot me down.
Yeah.
But because they only had the big frames.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in the video. They just had the like big fuselage pieces and the wings. I was hoping to see all the internal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the build video, the instructional build video
Yes.
out now.
Yeah.
So you can see it all there, and you can see the sprues that they didn't show, and it's just, those are the ones I really wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was very cool to see that. It looks very much like, as I mentioned in the video, typically ICM in the way they've approached it. If you've built the Beaufort, I think it would be a very similar kind of build, but obviously with a lot less room in the fuselage.
And also a lot easier undercarriage.
Yeah. So yes, I do have a poll up on the channel at the moment. So if you want to go to the channel, I put in the 4 schemes. So obviously I'll be building the Hampden. But I said to Valeria, I said, when I get the kit, I'll pause all of the projects. Doesn't matter what they are.
Yeah.
I'll just focus on this and build it. So obviously I want to know in advance what scheme to do. The last time I was looking, the torpedo development unit scheme was winning, which was the one with the full yellow underside.
Lucky old you.
Which I was kind of hoping for. Having seen it, I was just like, ooh, that looks pretty. And this is like, yeah. It's something about that dark earth with the yellow just goes really nicely. So
the prototype look.
Yes, exactly. And so the KI-100 from Zucchimura really impressed me, as Zucchimura kits are impressive, because it's just like you've ripped the skin off an aircraft and it's like there's all the stuff in there. I may well pick that up. I may well. I'm trying to stock more Zucchimura in the shop, but it's just a matter of what's available on import because they tend to sell fairly quickly. The other thing, like you said, the Hornet from DBMK, because I think they were due to start production originally. The first 2 kits were meant to be out last year.
Yeah.
I have no problem with companies, like small companies especially, that delay to get things right.
Yeah.
And looking at those Hornet frames, the Hornet is one of those aircraft that I really like. I've got, I think, is it the Frog 1/72nd scale?
Okay, yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah. I've got one of those because at the time it was the only kit available of the Hornet until I think Special Hobby / MPM did a couple of versions, but they were very expensive at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that looks really nice. I'll definitely.
I think Trumpeters do one. Just out to say. I think of 48 or something like that.
I'll still do the DBMK one.
Yeah, it's a 32nd for a start. So
that's true. Yeah.
It's going to be quite a beast when it's around. I think they had problems with their supplier, but I think there were 4 frames from the kit that were missing. Otherwise, they were actually aiming to be able to sell them at Telford, but they had 4 frames that were late coming over, so they didn't do that, sadly. Yeah. But it won't be long before they're on market. And as I say, I think the Sea Furies being production is January, I believe, down in New Haven.
Yeah. And like you say, Qatari had some really nice. It's really nice to see them not only doing well, but like showing that they've been very transparent. It's just like, oh look, we've got this in the works. We're looking at doing this. In the future, we're going to be doing these pieces, and it's like it's really nice to see that sort of laid out because, like you say, they're not like DBMK, like some of these smaller manufacturers. They're not trying to take over the world. They're not trying to be the next whoever, which is pointless, by the way.
Yeah. Of course.
As a quick aside. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole today. When you get into something and you're just trying to look at something and you start digging, and I'm just like, okay, I better make a video out of this because I got so much material.
Yeah.
I was looking on the relative size of companies. This all started with Hornby. And of course, now they're a private company. I thought they'd just delisted from one exchange, but they were still publicly traded. But I was wrong. I was wrong on that. They are actually completely private now. Basically, Phoenix Asset Management, who own Hornby, own it through a subsidiary that they created in 2020. So effectively, they bought the group, and then they've created this different. I don't want to call it shell company because that sounds dodgy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a shell company
Yeah.
that they've kind of inserted in the middle to deal with all the Hornby stuff, because obviously they own lots of different things.
Sure.
It's called I think it's called the Castle Now Group, and they manage the Hornby stuff. So they just do the Hornby piece, and now they own basically all the shares. So basically, prior shareholders in Hornby were offered shares in Castle Now, I think 1-to-1, which is a really good deal. And I know people were taking it because Hornby shares last traded at 15 pence each, which is garbage. It was never lower, and the share price had crashed from years ago. It had only gone down. Whereas the Castle Now Group were like just over £1. So it's like, who's not going to take that deal?
Yeah.
But that now gives them, I think, an 80% asset shareholding. So, not everybody sold, obviously. I think they could have got up to 90 if everybody had, but, so I was trying to get, because I was looking to their financial records, because normally they used to publish their annual report around this time, but of course they don't publish now because they're private.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get an estimate of what it was, and that led me into the whole how big model companies are. So I've now looked at all model companies, what their revenue turnover is, and it's really interesting. The model industry is incredibly fragmented. I mean, incredibly fragmented. Nobody has, I think Airfix is, just to give you an idea, you have a look at my big spreadsheet here, which of course it's turned into an Excel spreadsheet.
Of course.
This is a prior version, so I've only got 103 companies on there. But Airfix's market share, oh God, where are they? I'm going to have to resort it by turnover again. There we go. Their market share is approximately 1%. So, 1% of the global hobby market, or plastic model market, Airfix have 1%. That just shows you how fragmented it is. So, to try and compete, and they are within the top 20, right? If you look at a company like, let's take somebody like ICM, for instance. If I can find it, I'm going to have to use my search function. Excuse me, please hold caller. ICM. So a company like ICM, 0.15% market share. Now they're making less than $5 million a year, right? And most people would think, well, if I had a business that was turning over $5 million a year, I'd be pretty happy. And ICM are a great company. They've got, they're doing great things, producing great company. But to try and compete with that, you can imagine it takes a lot to get a company up to 5 million.
Oh, yeah.
So, to try and take on the world, it's an impossible task. You can certainly, and you can understand why companies like Atari, like DBMK, both of them, their primary driver is accuracy. I think DBMK actually, they have it in their tagline, don't they? For their
something about that.
Company. Accuracy is their number one goal, because that's how you distinguish yourself from the big players. Although when you've got big players like Tamiya, not exactly renowned for being slapdash.
Not shabby, are they? Not shabby.
No, because of course they did have their F14D on display at the Hobby Council.
Yes.
Which we've seen sprues of before, but seeing them in person is always a little bit different than seeing a render or a photo from a different show. So And then, of course, the one company that we haven't mentioned yet is Revell.
Mm.
I thought the Revell stand looked really, really good. I think it's certainly the best Revell stand I've seen in recent years.
Mm.
I have to go back to, like, again, late 90s, early 2000s, when they used to bring like proper stands, like their own built up like thing with sides and built-in lighting and stuff. They really went like full on then.
Yeah.
And that's when they were releasing stuff like the Focke-Wulf 200, the BV 222, all of that stuff, the 1/72 scale U-boat and all those things. So yeah, I didn't actually get a chance to speak to Luke. I've kind of emailed and messaged him afterwards, but I mean, the Meteor looks fantastic. And
yeah, absolutely.
Like you said with the 109, I mean, the Meteor is a big aircraft. In 32nd scale, it's big and impressive. They had, 4 of them, one in each of the schemes on the stand.
Yeah.
And it didn't look overwhelming. It just looked, oh yeah, there's some Meteors there.
Yeah. The new 2-seat Hunter essentially conversion, but yeah, there's a whole kit. That looked beautiful. I was slightly underwhelmed by Revell this time, because we knew the 1/32 Meteor was going on. There's loads of people have shown it on their channels and their feeds and whatever. I suspect they've got more up their sleeve, but I think they're in a product cycle hole where the likes of Luke going in and new blood in the company, their influence has yet to be seen, because it's going to take them 2 or 3 years to develop all these things. And I was kind of like, yeah, well, they're lovely, great. I like the big gun for the ME-262. That's very nice. Love the T7 Hunter with every fibre of my being, and I will buy many of them. But it was like, yeah, you haven't hit us with something big and new, because you knew all this was coming. That might be because they've changed the way they do things, is that they're a lot more open about what they're doing. And this is what we're planning to do. This is the step we're at and all that. It's not just like the sort of, pow, we've been working in secret on this. But that might be a year or two down the line, as I say, as the influence of the changes to like people like Luke and all that going into the business, that's going to take time to work through. But
well, I think as well,
they're going to maybe do something in Nuremberg in January, which is obviously home ground and aiming at the actual industry rather than the consumer.
Yeah, so it must be said, Nuremberg is. I won't say anything naughty about the Germans in Nuremberg, but it is their big rally thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the Nuremberg Toy Fair is the big one for Revell. It's, as you say, it's home ground. It is industry focused rather than the public. I'm debating whether to try and go or not, because I've never been. And I think that would be quite cool.
I'm going to try and go this year, just even if it's just once to experience it. Also, because there are people there that don't go to Telford, like people at the gallery, the airbrush people have a stand at Nuremberg. I'd really like to go there and have a chat with them. They don't do Telford, so it's things. And also, I think the vibe is different because it is a trade fair rather than a public fair, and so it's a bit more time to be able to stand and chat with people, I suspect.
Yeah,
I'd be completely wrong, but I'll see.
Cool. That sounds like a cross-channel road trip, Gary.
Yeah, I'm kind of there and back in a day at the moment, but I'm debating about whether to extend that so I stay overnight as well. Because the trip from Munich is 2 hours to Nuremberg anyway, so
yeah,
may have to put it overnight, but that's not going to be the end of the world. Air miles are wonderful things. Or avios, I should say now.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I was... So, yeah, I think that's another thing. Again, this is just an aside. And again, this is kind of more of our thoughts before we get into survival guide and stuff. But you can have 2 people, as we have here. Gary and me both went, you see the same things. You can weigh different stuff, right? Because I was really impressed with the Revell stand. I thought it looked good. They had a lot of built.
Oh yeah, it did look good. Yeah.
They had the new Lamborghini, if I can say it properly, Revuelto, It's probably Roberto. Apologies to any Italians in the audience. They had all the frames for that. So if you're a car guy, that's quite a big thing. They had, as you said, the 5cm Pulsistorder, the ME262 field conversion set. I was quite intrigued by that because they said it was like an upgrade. Right? And I really hope it's not an upgrade to the old 1/32 scale ME262 kit, because they did do a 5cm version of that. I have it. The kit is absolutely garbage. I mean, I was intending to do a video on it, and it's just been so much work sanding all the bloody rivets off. It kind of got consigned to the, after a couple of hours of sanding, I'm just like, I've had enough of this. I need to put it away and do something else before I go insane and destroy it. It's that kind of level. It's the old. If anybody's seen my Corsair video, it's from that kind of era, in this horrible green plastic. So I really hope it's not for that, or if it is, that they've majorly revised the tooling, because that would be like putting lipstick on a pig. Because the bit that they showed, the renders of it and everything, they've got the ammunition drum in there and stuff. It looks great. And if you're looking at that, I would have it open to keep you looking at the rest of the kit.
Yeah. Yeah, you can have the access panels draped artistically over the worst parts, can't you?
And then a big canvas sheet over the other bit. It's just like, the mechanics didn't want you to see.
Don't get footmarks on the nice new paint.
Exactly. Those engines are very delicate. We can't have any ingress in there, so we just covered the whole rest of the aircraft.
That's it.
If you could do that, those pieces could be included in the kit, please.
Well, one thing I did the other day, I broke my record for the time between starting a kit and thinking this is going out of the window and in the bin, and it was about 10 minutes. And
what kit?
Would you believe the new hybrid Edward Avia S199?
Oh, really?
Because within 5 minutes of starting it, I'd broken half of one of the rudder pedals in 2 places. I'd lost one of the parts, and one of the side panels had cracked in half when I was trying to get it off the frame. The resin is insanely brittle, and I'm thinking, I'm really not. I did manage to glue 2 parts together, and I did it using regular polystyrene cement, Mr. Hobby SP. So they're true. These 3D printed parts can be assembled using polystyrene cement. However, it's in the box there, and it laughs at me. It sits there and laughs at me, and I'm thinking, haha, I'm laughing at you because I'm not making you now.
Your future.
I really am going to have to force myself to do something about it. It is so brittle.
I'll tell you the thing to do, Gary. Send me your address. I'll send you a big pot of sprue goo thin, and you can just put it next to your workbench
as a threat.
As a threat. So if anything misbehaves, just get a piece of sprue and drop it in. It's like, this is your fate if you don't behave.
Yeah, definitely. But apart from that, it looks lovely. It looks beautiful. I mean, the detail is exceptional. But I'm not going to be rushing to get any of the other hybrid ones just at the moment until I figure out a way of handling the stuff, because it's like glass. It's so brittle.
No.
But
I think so. John Alec messaged me saying he's doing the mini art, the Junkers. Is it the J13 or F13, whatever it is, the mini art?
Oh right, yeah.
First production, like all metal airline.
Yeah.
The weird thing that looks like it's got eyes, which are open pits for the crew, and then all the passengers get an enclosed cabin. Bizarre. But he said he opened it. It looks beautiful. He'd seen it at various things. He's seen the pictures from the Telford one, one was placed in the competition, and then he said he opened it up, and the first 2 pieces were like some tiny piece of plastic, and he said his phrasing was something like a piece of photo etch the size of a human hair. It's just like, enthusiasm, just like zoom.
Yep.
It's like, that's step 1.
Yeah. And as a result, I started building this modelist BI-1 rocket fighter. The rocket fighters from 1942. I don't know where this is from, and I'm loving that. I'm so enjoying building that, and it just just goes to show that modern technology isn't everything.
Indeed. Well, it's one of those Jurassic Park things, isn't it? It's just because you could do it that way doesn't mean that you necessarily should. Sometimes simpler is better. I've always said this with a lot of parts that were like, and this is back in the 90s. This isn't, from cutting edge technology now. But like you got the Dragon kits, which had sometimes dubious fit. And then they would often supply like the German night fighter Fug aerials in photo etch. And you think, but it wasn't flat. And these, even in 1/72nd scale, I can tell that's flat and not a rod. I'm not going to use those. The plastic parts look better. I just, so sometimes it's like this cult of, I won't say cult of detail, but like, cult of like, oh, I've got to use like different stuff. I've got to use photo etch. I've got to use this. It's like, no, sometimes those bits aren't the most appropriate. They just, maybe they put them in to say that they've got a photo etch fret and they didn't really know what to do with it, but photo etch is great if you've got like a grill, or a nice plate which has some detail on it or stuff. It's not good for things like that, like grab handles and stuff. No. In my personal opinion.
I saw the other thing about that Dragon was they're releasing a new 109 and they've used these insanely large slide molds. So basically, the whole fuselage is one piece. There's no joining, and that looks intriguing. Maybe next month they're launching it, or month after. I'll see. Might get one and see what it looks like. It's
an interesting concept, but the 109 did have quite a prominent seam down its top. So I'm just like, that's it. That would be really good for some aircraft. The 109 is probably one of the least suitable for that, but but I appreciate the spirit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But there we go. We'll see. They're trying, at least, I guess.
Indeed.
Very.
The other thing I noticed about Revell, and actually there's a comment here which I think is fair. Mr. Divisio, you're a favoured commenter tonight, obviously. You say, I think the thing we have to bear in mind with Revell is that Luke is only the manager of air and space. So whilst he has made immediate effect in this area, it will take longer. And that's right. And he's not worked there a huge amount of time. What is it, about 15 to 18 months, something like that now?
About that, yeah.
I mean, and it's great because I think you can definitely see the influence. And Revell must have been ready for this, right? They must have wanted to like, okay, we need to make changes. We need somebody. Quite often it's easier to do that if you get somebody in, to specifically do that. It's easier to change a culture than it is to do it organically from within. Now we are seeing flip-top boxes, which is great. Some of the flip-top boxes aren't quite what we would want. Sea Hurricane. But it's a step in the right direction, right? Hopefully they will get better over time. And it's a vast improvement from the garbage end opening things that we've had for a long time. But one of the things I was surprised that they haven't really made much noise about is the SLS Artemis, which they had on this display stand. It looks good. You can tell it's different. It's slightly different from the Airfix one. Now, if you had them side by side and asked me to say, what those differences were, it would take a while because I don't have the Revell one yet. I will do, and I have built the Airfix one, so I'll be able to give a side by side comparison. I'll probably hold off on my Airfix video now until I've done the Revell one to give you that comparison. But that kind of wasn't really, I mean, it was announced, but if it had been, obviously, the Airfix PR marketing machine, like everybody in England would have heard of it.
Mm.
And Revell are taking a slightly different approach. And I think that's part that they're trying to change. You've seen them do their videos now, which they weren't doing before.
Yeah.
Trying to engage more with the community. All of that is good. I think that's all good stuff. And it will take longer for sure. But I was a bit surprised that the Artemis wasn't, there wasn't a bit more song and dance about it, especially because they also have the shuttle, re-release.
Yeah, this is part of my issue with the whole of the Artemis and space thing in general. Is I think NASA is finding it very difficult to engage people with the same level of enthusiasm with Artemis as they could ever do with Apollo. And the biggest reason for that is that Artemis isn't a race against the Russians.
Yes.
Okay, there isn't a political subtext to it. There isn't the heroic American crews going to beat those Ruskies feel about it. Mm-hmm. So with that lack of, I know much more about the scheduling, the crews, and all of that of Apollo than I know about Artemis.
Yeah.
I really know about Apollo. I know very, very. I don't even know what their basic mission plan is. How we're going to get people there and what they're going to do. So, and I think that's partly maybe NASA isn't funded well enough for PR. Maybe it's, but I just think people aren't that fussed personally, and it's an awful thing to say.
I think it's like people.
We've done that.
You're right.
We've done that. We've done space. A very good friend of mine who works in NASA in Houston was describing something to his son whilst the shuttle program was still on. He was describing something to his son, and he ended up with the phrase, "Do you know what? It's really space age." And his son said, "You mean old-fashioned?" Space age. Space age, 50s and 60s. That's Apollo. The Jetsons. That was space age.
Yeah.
And I think that perception is what they're fighting. And as a result, I think Airfix and Revell are going to struggle with that perception of, had it been the late 60s and they just got a new model, 144th model of the Saturn V, that would have been a showstopper.
Yeah.
But it was like,
as they were at the time.
I can't remember where they were on the Airfix stand. I cannot picture in my mind where those models were. I'd probably think where they were likely to be. But I can't think, I remember, I didn't even bother looking at them. And I don't know whether that's something Revell find even more in Germany, maybe. I don't know. But it's almost like they're doing it because they feel they have to, rather than they necessarily want to.
Which makes it an odd kind of release because, toolings aren't cheap.
No.
I think for Revell, the SLS Artemis, because it is, the ESA has an input as well.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Germany has a very strong European connection feel that we obviously kicked out almost 10 years ago now. So we kind of don't have that. We are Europe. We're together, we're united, sort of thing. Whereas I think Germany very much does. And we all know that Angela Merkel would have been fine with the federal state of Europe. And there was a lot of pushback for it in various countries, including ours. But I think in Germany they were, we're a federal country ourselves, so it doesn't really make much difference. Bavaria will still be Bavaria, Germany, Europe. I don't think they would care. And I think to a large extent, whatever your politics around it is, and I'm not advocating for one or the other, it's very much the same here, right? I don't think Somerset would have changed if we were Somerset, England, United Kingdom, Europe. It's just we still wouldn't have been forced to buy straight bananas, But it's a weird thing, the whole space thing, because I think, again, I realize, guys, we're going off topic, but that's what we do here.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, the space shuttle was, you had rockets, and then they were old-fashioned. You had reusable space vehicles, the shuttle being the first, the flagship, and then we would have others. I remember having a book from W.H. Smith's, the Space Shuttle Handbook, which had all the blueprints and stuff. It speculated on what the next version would be like, and instead what we had was a series of accidents, one of which I saw live, which was, absolutely shocking at the time. And then all the cutback, and then that ended, and that kind of felt like space was now dead. We're going to go back to using rockets because they're reliable. We don't have to man them. We just throw stuff up in orbit that we need to. And it was just like the hopes of, the 1950s, we're going to be living on the moon, then we're going to colonize Mars and all that. They were kind of dead. And Artemis is just another rocket. I think that's kind of the feel of it. And even, to be honest, when I built the Artemis, I built the Saturn V, the Artemis is technically a better kit. I had way more fun building the Apollo.
Yeah.
It is weird. It's not just because, I never, obviously I'm too young to have been involved in any of the Apollo stuff, but my dad wasn't. And so he built the original, I don't know whether it was the Airfix or the Revell kit. It was probably the Airfix kit he built. That was in my room as a kid. It all came apart. It was like space and like, wow.
Yeah.
So you had that generational kind of enthusiasm go onto it. And then, like you said, you had that pressure of the Cold War. Russia was still, the Soviet Union was this big, clear and present danger. America clearly won the space race, with landing on the moon and, then the space shuttle, and the Russians tried the space shuttle. It didn't really work for them. It was all a big political, maneuvering game. And then the Soviet Union collapsed, and America's like, right, we don't need to do that anymore. And it's costing us billions and billions of dollars. So let's stop that and sort out other things like our incredible debt,
Yeah.
Which of course they failed, like the rest of the world also failed. And yeah, how do you rekindle that? And I think, the next obvious one is, well, it's Mars and Musk, which is tragic, really.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, it was still exciting. I met a guy, Oleg Kotov, who was a cosmonaut, and he and Sergei Krikalev were on Mir when the Soviet Union collapsed. So they went into space from the Soviet Union as Soviet citizens, and then they came back down to Earth 6 months later as Russian citizens landing in Kazakhstan without passports. All of that was happening.
They didn't have border control at the space agencies, did they?
No, they're in Kazakhstan. So Star City, Baikonur is in Kazakhstan. That's where they landed. Thank you. Well, welcome to Kazakhstan. Passport, please. Papers, please. And now they have to have someone whose job it is to carry all of their papers for them. The Americans and the Russians or whoever go up there now. But that was still quite fun at that point. But now it's like, I'm pretty sure there are people on space station at the moment. I see it go over every now and again. I don't know how many there are, what nationality are, and what their names are.
Do you know what I think will get good space viewing?
What's that?
Is when the International Space Station, because it's being decommissioned,
and deorbit.
when they deliberately deorbit, they're going to crash it, right?
Yeah.
They're going to crash it into the atmosphere so it breaks up.
I've spoken to so many people in the path. It crashes, they deorbit. It's a controlled deorbit over the Pacific.
Yeah, that's like an unscheduled rapid disassembly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bullshit, it blew up.
Yeah.
Don't give us that BS, Musk.
That's the other thing. There's so much private enterprise in it now. That back in the Apollo days, the Americans felt it was their program. It was the federal government. It was their program. America was on a high. You look at the cars that were being built then, the planes that were being built then, and the sort of the general atmosphere was one of progress, and we can do anything. We're the most best place in the world. We can do anything we want because we've got tons of money to throw at this project. And now it's, well, we can't do it, but this trillionaire can. And which means there's going to be some issues around copyright, and there's going to be issues around this. There's going to be issues around. So when it comes to whatever they design to land on the moon or Mars, it's like, well, they're going to have to negotiate the rights to be able to make model kits of that and pay some extortionate fee for it, rather than it's federal government, it's open source. You do what you like with it. I think people are very wary of that. It's no longer theirs. It's no longer ours. It belongs to industry now.
Yeah. And people are, I think, a little bit sick of billionaires, you know, in that way, and telling us what to do. A few comments on this have come up in the chat. So Travis says SpaceX launches get big live views because there's a good chance it'll explode. Now, we've talked about this, Travis. It's an unscheduled rapid disassembly.
Yeah. Which met all of the mission plans.
Yeah, I mean, a very high chance.
Off the ground, so that was a win.
Now, Paul Dye says, to be honest, I'd rather have a Flash Gordon rocket ship than the Artemis.
Absolutely.
Now, I think that's a really good shout, because if you look at all of the models in those 3 halls, how many Space 1999 Eagles were there?
How huge they were. There were some like 5-6 feet long.
The 22-inch one now being done standard.
Beautiful things.
Compared to Apollos. And there were a few Apollos. There were a few Artemises, but there were a hell of a lot of Eagles.
Yeah.
You know, and sci-fi still does have that capturing the imagination piece.
Absolutely.
And I think it's Julian mentions. Yeah, here we go. Model making in general is either nostalgic, so working on something that, you know, has a personal connection to you, like the space shuttle, you know, because you remember it blowing up when you were a kid, or Apollo, or whatever that is, you know, World War II stuff, World War One, well, probably not World War One, but Cold War stuff, all that kind of thing, or aspirational. I want one of those. And he says neither applies to space-related objects, but I think sci-fi, because there's some cool stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I want to build an Enterprise, you know, or I want to build, I don't know, the Rocinante from, Jesus, I can't remember the show, but from that show, whatever it is, you know, I want to build the Liberator, you know, because they're cool, and you don't have to worry about, like you say, who owns them, although the copyright.
But also, science fiction comes from a time in the future where all these petty boundaries that we have now seem to have been sorted out. It's always a world federation of this. You know, it's always some grand overarching United Nations kind of, you know, Stingray, the World Aquanaut Security Patrol. You know what I mean? It was all in a future where all of that nonsense had been got rid of, and it was back to the idealism of it all. Yeah,
and thank you, Paul. You see, the chat is always has greater mental capacity than me. It's always. I tell you what, guys. That's the one super benefit of streaming, is you guys know everything compared to my limited knowledge. So, The Expanse, really good show. If you've not seen The Expanse, it's quite a hard sci-fi in the sense that all the physics of stuff makes sense, apart from
cool.
You know, the alien. You've not seen The Expanse?
No.
Oh, no. I'd really recommend it. It's
excellent.
It's really good. So, yeah, I won't spoil anything. It's not just like, oh, space lasers. It's like, no, it's kind of, it feels real, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. Also, Earth and Mars are not particularly friends, so you know that's how Elon Musk's venture ended up.
Yeah.
Also, I think Adam, perfect, an Armageddon diorama with a bunch of war riggers. I've never seen that as a diorama. That would be a great diorama. I'm gonna have to see now what models there are of war riggers. Make a comment. Space Yamato, space battleship Yamato. That's another one. Actually, the only thing that I thought I might buy at Telford, I didn't see. And that was the Phoenix of G-Force from Battle of the Planets.
Okay.
Because I saw one, was it last year or the year before? And I thought, I didn't realize you get a model of that. I didn't realize it was, of course, some Japanese company.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw one, I thought, oh, right, if I see one of those, I'll pick one up. And of course, I didn't. Not a single one to be seen this year. Somebody said the Russian space shuttle worked. Damien says the Buran, which is obviously the Russian space shuttle, only ever flew once, and even then it was unmanned. Yeah. For me, it doesn't work unless it gets into space and comes back as a space shuttle, right? Elon Musk's big Starship doesn't work, right? It's never got into space, done what it's supposed to do, and got back okay. It's delivered a banana to the South Indian Ocean once. That's not what it's designed to do, right? It's meant to be what's going to get us to the moon. I can tell you, spoiler, guys, it's not. Anywho,
the training plane version of Buran was brilliant because it's like the space shuttle, but it had about 4 or 6 jet engines plugged onto the back end. That's really cool. Really groovy.
That seemed to be the Soviet answer to everything, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the Ukraine plans. It's just like, we need more thrust. Just put more engines on it.
Yeah.
Can you put 3 together on each side of it? Yeah. And how about 8 on the back? Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, do that.
And ultimately, that's what the Antonov 225 was built for, to ferry that around. And it's like, have you got a big plane? Well, we've got this Antonov 124, but it doesn't seem to be big enough. We'll make the wings bigger, add another couple of engines, big 2 tails. Job's a good one. There you go. Biggest aeroplane's ever flown. Well done, you. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. Nick says, who's excited about the new Hella releases? Unfortunately, guys, I don't have a cricket on my soundboard yet. I mean, Hella, Hella are, for me, they're in the glow to be, I don't want to call it dustbin. That's not the right word. It's in their warehouse, right? It's like the round 2 stuff, right? The AMT kits that round 2 are doing. Nothing is new about them. Nothing's exciting about them. They're just redoing the old stuff. Now, yes, Hella are making some new kits. I don't see them moving the needle at all. You know, they made the Hawkeye, which apparently is a decent kit.
So I heard.
Was it one that's going to, how many people were waiting for it? Hasegawa already did Hawkeye, which was okay. And apparently this is a bit better. But if you've already built a 1/72nd scale Hawkeye from Hasegawa, are you going to build another one from Hella just because it's a little bit better? I don't know, maybe. But there aren't that many people building 1/72nd scale Hawkeyes. They're bringing out they brought out a Peugeot 205. That's great. Some people will have some nice memories of French cars. They're mainly French. France is actually one of the smallest of the single country markets in Europe. For me, it's the wrong choice of subject. There will be some people in the UK that also have nice memories of a Peugeot 205. You're wrong, but you're not wrong, obviously. But if you think the time the Peugeot 205 was like the hot hatch to have in the 80s, they were also competing with the Renault 5, the Golf, which I would argue would be probably the number 1. For those who didn't have enough money, things like the Metro. You poor people. I'm so sorry.
6R4 was a bit tasty, but,
Yeah.
Other than that, not exactly road legal.
Compared to the Metro, yeah, the 205 was exciting. But
well, the 205, the 1.9 205 GTI was a lovely car. but it had masses and masses of torque steer being a front wheel drive, and that probably was a quick journey to a very unfortunate day for many drivers who got caught out by it. It wasn't as refined as some of its competitors.
And again, my argument isn't against the actual car. I mean, I would never drive another Peugeot in my entire life after driving a 406 and it being one of the worst pieces of automotive garbage on the planet. It's not unique to Peugeot. Many French cars are like that. I'm showing my bias here.
2CV. I love my 2CV. It was a brilliant car.
No, you see, and this brings me to
because it had no pretensions to be anything other than what it was.
But that brings me to the kind of next point I have. I'm sorry, I'm with Clarkson on the whole French car thing, but he's not a fan. As a model release, you think, okay, we need to rejuvenate this brand. We need something to inject money into the company, because that's what the primary number one thing is in business, right? Is this going to make us money? Is it going to be good ROI, return on investment? We're going to invest in this tool. Is it going to pay back? The Peugeot 205, we're going back to actually Julian's point, 2 reasons why people build a model. It's I want it because it looks cool, it looks nice, it's desirable, or it's nostalgia. Now, I would argue the first point is invalid here. So you're relying on nostalgia. It's just not got the legs. You know, if you want something to make money, you do the same thing that Airfix and Edward and everybody else do. And I'm not saying you make a Spitfire, but you make a popular subject that's going to be very widely sellable, right? You look at what market do you want. For me, I was talking to my channel members about this. To me, I would have made something American, like really typically American, like those horrible, and apologies, Americans. I know you love them, but those things that were like 1940s trucks that then they make into hot rods.
Right. Yeah,
that kind of thing. I'd have made something like that, and I'd have pushed it in America, because that's what American modeling is mostly now. It's the number one thing that they make in America are cars. And if you can make a good kit of that, they are starved. American modelers generally are starved of really good American subjects, because you've got the old AMT and MPC molds, the old Revell and Monogram stuff. That's kind of what they're living on. So if you make a really nice like kit of that, people would say, well, Heller aren't really known in America. That doesn't matter. They'll become known if you are making the gold standard of like American cars. Make it easy to convert, make it with conversion in mind so that they can make hot rods out of it really easily. And you capture that market, a market that really not very many people are addressing. That's what I would have done, not make a bloody Peugeot 205. You know, it would be purely based on like the business side of it. You know, they've got all this modeling knowledge and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's all great. Don't make a French car that's going to sell to the French and a few people across Europe. If Europe is their main market, because Heller isn't really like that popular in the UK, you know, it's fringe. As I said, very fragmented market. If you're going to go for Europe, you're going to go for a European market. Okay, we've got all the export problems and stuff, which again, I would say is a good reason to do an American thing, because if you can sell to America when nobody else is, you've got that sealed, you're ahead of the game, which is going to pay back in spades. But say you just want to go Europe, okay, then do something German. Do a Golf, do a 1980s Golf. There's a far bigger German market than there is French, you know, and it was widely exported. People in the UK would build Golfs. You could actually have a basic frame that you could do several different marks on it, you know. So I just don't think they're thinking with their business head on enough, you know, which is very French. So good luck to them. I mean, I hope it all works for them. I would hate to see Heller go, because they are that quirky French thing. But to me, if they were going to do something quirky French, do a 2CV, you know, because that is iconic. It was exported a lot. Like you say, it was very popular in the UK. It was popular in lots of different places because it was this weird French thing, and you could drive across a field with a crate of eggs, you know.
Whilst wearing a top hat.
Whilst wearing a top hat, indeed.
Mine had central locking. I could reach all 4 door locks just to my seat. It was brilliant.
The 2CV was to France the same as the Volkswagen Golf was to Germany, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally.
It's the kind of instantly recognizable French car in the same way the Beetle, the Bug for the Americans there, was German. But hey, there we go. They do a 2CV, but we're talking about the new tools, like Hella's new releases. What's going to get them on there? I think they've done a 205 before in 1/43rd scale, if not, because I think this was a 24 scale, if I'm right. But just because you've done something before doesn't mean you can't do it again better. Look at what Airfix did when they came back. They retooled all of their old stuff. Yeah, they had mosquitoes, but they retooled them to something much better. So Anywho, so Hella releases. Hella weren't there, right? They weren't at Telford. Nobody was representing Hella. To me, Hella are. It's nice that they're around because it makes it easy to get kits that you might otherwise have to go onto eBay or KingKit for. Like the HE112, which they're very basic kits, but not very many other people do them, and you can pick them up really, literally for a couple of pounds. And then you can add detail in there. So you can add an Edouard detail. I don't know if Edouard do one, but you can add whatever detail sets to it, 3D printed or whatever, and make it a really nice kit. And it still hasn't cost you much. So that to me is a nice reason to have Hella, but I'm not looking to them for the latest and greatest. And I don't see many people probably are. But I'd love to be wrong, but logic dictates I probably won't be. Sorry.
Yeah. Very true.
So going back to the kind of central theme of this, we kind of talked a little bit about some of the new stuff that we saw at Telford, the fact that it's a massive show. Gary, what advice would you give to somebody if they've never been to Telford before? What would be your, I'm thinking of like real basics, like 1 day, 2 days. Do you take food? Do you take cash? My first piece of advice to somebody would be wear some really comfy shoes.
Yeah, definitely.
That you can stand in for 2 days and not like get tired. Like if that means like nice foam insoles or comfy socks or support socks or whatever it is, however silly it sounds, you'll thank yourself after 2 days. Walking around, I didn't wear a step counter. Somebody did say, did you wear a step counter? It sounds like a lot. You'll get your 10,000 steps in a day. No,
I love
that. Yeah. So it's hard on your old feet. Take plenty of, if you're going for more than 1 day, take plenty of changes of socks as well, because you don't want to be getting back to the hotel in the evening and then wearing the same things out in the evening, believe me.
That's for sure.
So that's my one starter. What would be your advice, Gary?
Definitely cash. That a lot of traders will take cards, a lot of them will, but you're guaranteed to find the one that you really want something and you haven't been to the cash machine, and the nearest cash machines are some distance away. Yeah. So for example, there's a Copper State kit that I thought I'm going to get that. They only took cash. By the time I got some cash, come back, they'd sold out. So okay, great. So yes, definitely take some cash. I think mainly, probably one thing I would do is, if you're going to get there, the queue to get in is insane. If you think I want to get in right at the beginning, if you're going to be there 2 days, I wouldn't bother. Personally, I would turn up an hour or two after opening time and just walk in. Yes. Rather than queue up for 5 hours and go in with everything. I would definitely be there as a member of IPMS because you don't have to pay and you've got your membership card, and you'll be able to just walk in at that point, and it'll just be quicker. And if you're going in there both days, it will be cheaper as well.
Yeah.
And to be honest, what I would do is I would go in and I would just walk around all 3 halls first, just get a feel for the size of it, get a feel of the place, get a feel of where things are, because most of the dealers and companies on the outsides of the halls. Most of the inside of the halls are the tables for the SIGs and the special interest groups and for the member clubs and things like that. So I'd just take a wander around, just walk around all 3 halls first, then go and sit down for 5 minutes and get your breath back, because A, it's a long place, and B, it is quite overwhelming. And then think to yourself, with your show guide or whatever, what do I really want to see? What do I go back and have a look at? But just take your time after that. Food. I did have pulled pork bun with chips, and it was all right. It wasn't brilliant. It's very typical.
Yeah,
it isn't that far to walk out the hall to get some decent food. It really isn't that far. No, and it's a good reason to take a break and sit down.
Yeah, the food in the hall is typical of, if you've been to the Excel Centre, if you've been to the NAC, if you've been to the Glasgow Conference Centre. I'm just trying to think of ones across the country it's the standard kind of overpriced average fare you're going to get.
Yeah.
You'll pay £3 for a cup of coffee that comes out of a machine, which it's got coffee in it. It's got caffeine. It'll do the job. You won't enjoy it. It's just, you might as well take a protein pill as eat.
Yeah.
Some of the food's okay. Some of it's not so good. It's a bit, you throw your dice out there. You take your chance. When it was prepared, who's serving you, all those things, the standard. Yeah. But as Gary says, if you walk out of the hall, and it didn't always used to be this way, right? This has all been developed in the past 10 years or so, I think. If you now go out of the car park and just carry on going slightly to the left, there's a whole new development. I say new, it's, as I say, within the last 20 years, it's grown up. There's like an ice rink. I wouldn't suggest going to the ice rink, but they've got an ice rink. They've got a Cineworld. They've got, and they've got a load of eating places. Like they've got, is it a Nando's that's there?
There's all sorts, all sorts of things. Pizza places.
There's also a cafe which is like run by I think it's like the local town hall or whatever. I went in there for lunch on the second day on the Sun, or was it Saturday? I don't know. One of them, and I had the special, which was like a huge plate of food with chips and something and a drink, and it came to like a tenner. It was like, and you sit down, with a knife and fork, and you can eat it in peace. And I actually I bought a book. One of my only purchases, I bought some books, some Osprey books. One was on Japanese aces, and I just sat and read about a couple of Japanese aces. There were some insane guys. That's a topic for another time. But so I would recommend personally go out. You can take a breath of fresh air, like Gary said. A lot of people do, because you could spot them this year, because Airfix sponsored the event, so that everybody had a red Airfix tote bag, so you could spot them from a mile. It's just like, scale model world, scale model world, scale model world. And if you want to get cash, if you carry on through all of that, then that enters into the main Telford like shopping mall, mega mall thing, and there's cash points in there. But that's a bit of a trek, and then you're getting back into mall with loads of people and stuff. So definitely, cash is not, it's not completely absent, cash machines now, because you can get them over there, but it's like a half-hour round trip just to get cash. So I'll take as much cash as you can reasonably afford. The same advice I would give you if you were going to a casino night.
Yeah,
take as much cash as you can afford to lose. If you come home with nothing, you don't feel the sting, right? because you can't guarantee on not spending it all. And if you don't spend it all, you'll feel good, right? Because like you got this and you didn't spend much money, or you saved whatever, or you got some change left. That's a good feeling. But you don't really want to, as Gary said, get to that point. I did the same thing 2 years ago. Edward were there. They were only taking cash. I think it was a tax dodge. But they were selling over trees, and there were some I wanted. And of course, I didn't take any cash with me at all. So I had to go out. There was no cash dispenser in the hall itself, which I think is a massive oversight for an international centre. But hey, maybe it's security or whatever. But
yeah.
So yeah, for food, I would recommend. I would take. So one of the things I did do, I had the foresight to do, which is quite unlike me. I forgot my phone charger, but I remembered this. I took a bottle of water with me, because just going around, quite often, you just like get thirsty. You want to take, drink of water. That's quite a handy thing to do, because if you buy it in there, of course, everything's got the captive audience surcharge. So you'll pay a couple of pounds for a bottle of water that you'd pay 50p for outside. If you've got the money and it doesn't matter, there's plenty on site to serve you. The only thing is, of course, you have to wait in queues, which again, depending on how you want to divide up your time, might take out of your enjoyment of the show. If you're waiting in a queue for half an hour, just to get a bottle of water, kind of thing. But the site does have plenty of facilities. Wasn't always the way.
No.
It wasn't as well served in the past. It's pretty well served now. I had some food there last year, because obviously I had my stand, so I didn't have the opportunity to go out. I was literally go grab a sandwich and a cup of coffee and come back, and that was actually pretty good. It was bloody expensive, but it was okay. So, so yeah, if you want to be frugal, you can plan ahead, especially if you're staying overnight. I would just take some snacks. Oh, actually, somebody's just put exactly. WHT Alt 92. It's not easy. That doesn't trip off the tongue, but protein bars, Mars bars, other easily munched high sugar. Yeah, anything to keep I would say protein bars. I would advise against going for sugary stuff, because you get the sugar hit and then you'll feel crap half an hour afterwards. Protein bar kind of stuff. A protein bar, I think, is quite good for several reasons. One, it's protein, so you digest it more slowly. You don't get that big sugar rush and then crash. Plus, they never taste quite as good, so you're less inclined to eat it all the time. It's sort of a self-regulatory mechanism.
Very good point. Yeah,
that was all right. So you only eat it when you're actually hungry, which
is almost like medicine, isn't it? Really, you've got to take it.
It's doing you good, but so you only eat it when you're hungry. It kind of goes down, digests longer, and it fills you up better as well. So yeah, if you do a little bit of prep, of course, like you, Gary, I was there for quote unquote work.
Yeah.
So my prep was mainly, have I got a power pack? Have I got of course, I forgot the phone charger. Have I got my camera battery charger? Have I got spare batteries for the camera? Have I got SD cards? So I forgot all of the human stuff, apart from the water, which was good.
Yeah.
But if you're going there for you, then I would focus on keeping yourself comfortable, because if your feet hurt, 10 minutes into getting in there because you've worn brand new trainers and thin socks, you're not going to enjoy the show if you're hobbling around by the end of it. If you're starving hungry, or spent all your money on food and feel like you've got nothing out of the show, I'll probably give you a bit of a feeling. So a little bit of planning on that sort of stuff. If money's no object, there's the stuff there. If you're on a tight budget, you can take snacks and stuff beforehand. It's not like a cinema where you can't take food in. You don't have to smuggle it in. At least I don't think so. I don't think there's a policy. Oh my God, perhaps I'm advising you to do something illegal.
No, loads of the guys who are on the stands take food in with them. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's. I think that's because last year there was supposed to be a food trolley that went round to all the stands, and it never happened.
Well,
so they were just like, we're not getting caught out on this one and being starving all day.
Yeah.
Paul Dye says, I seem to remember that back in 2008 there was one cash machine in the hall entrance. It had run out of money by midday. Maybe that's why they got rid of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just stolen. Who knows?
Yeah.
I could make a derogatory comment about being near Birmingham there, but I won't.
Well, that's the other thing, of course, is to decide whether you're going to go up in a day or whether you're going to stay over. Because if you're going to stay over, you're going to want to start scoping out stuff now, because the stuff closest by, the Premier Inns and the what is it? The not Holiday Inn. I think there's a Holiday Inn. There's the
International Hotel.
There's the Travelodge also, which is right by there, which is I think where the Ethics guys, for example, stay. A lot of those get booked up, like basically as soon as they come onto the booking system.
Yeah, I was really lucky in that I looked a month before and I got a room in the actual hotel, the International Hotel, which is literally a stone's throw. Yeah. And then I ummed and ahed about whether my shop flooded. I had a problem with my foot, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't think I can go to the show. I ended up actually cancelling that room. So whoever got the late availability room at the International, no thanks needed.
Well, I did notice you had all your limbs, so obviously they hadn't actually charged you an arm and a leg.
No. Well, they did. It was expensive, and again, if money is no object, then you can get that. It's usually like £150 a night at the International. Those ones around there, including breakfast. So that's an extra £300, added on to the weekend as a baseline. I actually, my shop wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. My foot actually cleared up, and then I was just like, midweek I was like, I am going to go. I decided I'm going to go. I managed to get an Airbnb, which was like less than a third of the price for the whole weekend. And you're not actually, it's a place to sleep really, because you're at the show all day, so it doesn't need to be a fabulous hotel, because you're not going to really get the hotel experience. You're just there to come back and sleep. There are plenty of places to eat out in Telford, mostly curry places. The one piece of advice that goes with that, if you're staying and you're going out for a curry, take your own beer. If you're a drinker, take your own beer, because almost none of them are licensed. I think there's one, because I think we went to it last year, a whole bunch of us. There was John Alec Moss, there was Nigel, Luke, a whole bunch of other people, and we went there, and that was licensed. But most of them, the two I went to this year with the channel member people, neither was licensed. John Christmas very kindly brought along some beers the first night, and the second night I was driving, so I was drinking non-alcoholic, which they had. So yeah, that's a big one for some people. A lot of people can't enjoy a curry without a nice pint of lager with them. You need to take that with you.
Well, we were pretty lucky. We had an Airbnb for 5 of us. One of whom is a chef.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned this.
so we ate quite well. We had good breakfasts. That was a good thing. Actually, it's a good point. Be careful. Yes, have a good breakfast, but be careful you don't do too much carbohydrate, because you will get to the show and you'll want a nap, especially if you're of an age. So, you really need to be careful about not just loads of toast and pancakes and all the rest of it, because it's there and it's included, because you will absolutely not make it through to lunchtime. You'll be so tired.
You'll get that alkaline tide flowing through your veins, and the sleepiness will come.
Yeah, absolutely. But so it's good.
Yeah, protein is your friend in these circumstances. And the other thing, of course, if you are staying for the weekend, and you do go out and you do take the beers with you, just be aware if you're going to go heavy on those, it might be a hard day the next day.
Yep.
However, if you have a bit of a dodgy curry, the toilet facilities at Telford are very good.
Yes, that's true.
So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. I would recommend the toilets.
Yeah.
So lots of comments here on hotels and some recommendations. This one's interestingly, I ordered a vegan sausage bap at Telford, which had to be cooked to order, and it was really nice. Okay, that's quite a nice one actually. And you sometimes find this. There's two extremes with veggie food at these kind of events. One is that they all look at each other and just like, oh yeah, I think we've got a vegetarian sausage, and they bring out some deep frozen thing from the Ice Age.
Yeah.
You think, yeah, maybe not. Or, as your experience has been, Michael, they have it and it is ordered, but not that frequently, so they cook it to order.
Yeah.
And then you get really good food because it's hot, it's freshly prepared and stuff. So that's quite a good tip. It's a bit like the Greg's vegan sausage roll is actually much nicer than their sausage roll. So sometimes it just works that, if you know these little sweet spots, it's just like sometimes the veggie option is better. So
yeah.
Although, I mean, they still haven't worked out bacon. So
no.
You can't beat proper bacon. So there are lots of different places to stay in Telford. I don't know if there's any particular advantage in being right there by the hall, unless you're planning to get in really early. Because by the hall isn't really in the centre of Telford. So if you're planning to go out in the evening, it's taxi to most places. So just bear that in mind. You're not in walking distance of a pub by the hall, or at least not one that you'd really want to go to.
Yeah.
It's like with most conference centres, they don't put them in the centre of town. They're usually, out in the suburbs, near the motorway, which the Telford International Centre is. It's like a mile, I think, from the motorway. So if you're planning to go out, it's actually quite often better to get, like I say, an Airbnb, or there's a lot of these apartments, like these hotels, which are actually like a little apartment. And you have like a secure access, like a general access into the block, and then your own private access to your suite, which is usually a couple of rooms, which has a little kitchen and stuff. Those are pretty good. That's what I think. John Alec said, and a couple of others. You can get there. You can chill out. You can buy your food. They're quite often with like a little. Not like a mall or anything, but like a couple of little shops. Ours had a Domino's, I think, next to it, and like a general food shop. So if you wanted to buy food and cook it in your room, you could, or you could just go to Domino's like I did because I was lazy.
There's a lot of big supermarkets around that. There's a big Tesco's, a big Asda. They're building a big Lidl. The Asda's just actually not far from the convention centre as well. There's a lot of big. Sainsbury's is not far away as well. So if you're not right on top of it, there's still plenty of options and there's a lot of good takeaways and deliveries around there as well.
Yeah.
And very reasonably priced. If you live in London, you'll be surprised how cheap it is.
The other thing is parking. So you can park at the centre itself. It's, I can't remember how much, it's like £8 a day.
£8.
Yeah, which is, it's expensive. It's not hugely expensive. There is also a multi-story car park just across the road, which is much cheaper. It actually serves the shopping mall thing, and then you just walk across the road. The advantage of that is there is never a queue to get in that. There is always a queue to get into the International Centre car park.
Yeah.
So I would advise not parking in, unless you've got access issues, obviously. If you're in a wheelchair or have limited mobility and need to be right close. I think that's the main reason to park in that car park. To be honest, I would probably restrict it if I was the site owner to those people, because if you're able-bodied, I mean, literally, it's like a 50-yard walk from the big place across the road. But of course, they want the maximum money, so they'll open it to anyone. So yeah, that's a consideration. The whole, parking situation, the queuing for stuff is more, I would say, of a problem, because it depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from the motorway, and this sounds like a trivial thing, but it's important, right? If you're planning to park there, you want to come from the motorway direction because it's a left turn into that. If you're going from the other direction, so anywhere in Telford and coming that way, it's a right turn, which has a filter which lasts for about one car.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You're absolutely dead. If you go there, you'll get like 15 or 20 cars like go left before one car turns off that filter. You're actually probably better to drive past,
go past
all the way, go to the next roundabout and join that queue at the other end. You'll get him faster than trying to turn right there, unless you're very early. I got there before 8 o'clock on both days, and I had to wait at that filter for about 15 minutes on the Saturday. So that's before general access. It's before general IPMS access. So just watch it. I would say, though, my number one piece of advice for anybody going to Telford is just pace yourself. It's 2 days, exactly as Gary said. If you have a quick look around it, just browse around it, amble around. Don't think of what you're going to do. Take it in, then sit down. They've got plenty of seating by the first bar area. And at the beginning of the show, nobody's sitting there because everybody's wanting to get in and look at things. Come lunchtime, that's packed. Although you can usually find the odd chair and stuff. But just go down, have a look around, then come back and just sit down and then work out what you want to do. I think it helps if you've got a rough plan before you go. Are you just there to see the show? That takes a lot of pressure off. Are you there to buy stuff? I've been in the past to buy stuff, and I've come back with like literally an entire boot full of kits. To the point where there's little room for my son, I, and our bags in the car, kind of level. Is it to meet people? Is it to go and see like the manufacturer stands? Because if you've got a rough idea of what you want to do, then you can look at the plan. You can okay, I'm going to go and see Airfix now. You go over, see Airfix, maybe chat to Dale, maybe some of the designers. That was good. Now I'm going to go and have lunch or whatever. Is it going to go and see the competition? The competition, I got in the competition. They won't allow anybody in during judging. It's still a little bit awkward, I think. I don't think they've quite got the competition right in terms of how they allow access and stuff, because people bring models in, they set it all up, and then they close it for judging. It's closed to judging till 1 o'clock on the Saturday, and then they allow people in. So you have to queue. I was about the 20th person back in that queue, right, when I arrived. They opened the doors, so I was about 3 people from being let in, because they only let a certain number of people in, about 18. And then when someone comes out, they'll let another person in. So it took me about 10 minutes to get in. And that was with a press pass. They don't allow people with press pass in while they're judging, which I think is crazy. Because if you're in a press pass, you're there to just photograph the stuff. You're not looking for you. You're just there to photograph stuff, film stuff, and then get out, right? But you take a long time doing that. I mean, I must have taken about 45 minutes to photograph everything or film everything in that hall. Because I was in early, that's 45 minutes that somebody else couldn't come in.
Yeah.
Now, if I'd done that during judging, one, it wouldn't have taken me 45 minutes because there'd have only been the judges there. So I could have whipped around it much quicker. And also, I wouldn't have been another body holding up a queue. Because that queue, when I came out, was all the way down the length of that. It's held in a separate room outside of the halls. And there's an access corridor, and it was all the way down there. It's where the food hall is, inconveniently. So the queue goes in front of where you've got to go to the food, which causes more problems. And then it snaked back on itself all the way back. People were saying that like they were waiting for an hour in that queue to see the competition stuff. And of course, when things are judged, some of the people are going home the same day that go in the competition, which again, I think is something they should change. So they're actually taking their models away. So there's no guarantee you'll see everything anyway. And if you're going on the Sunday, a lot of that stuff has gone. So if you want to see the competition, try to get to see that early. I would go on the Saturday and I would go at about 10 to 1 and get in the queue there and get in a reasonable time, because otherwise you're going to be wasting a lot of time standing in the queue, which I think queuing during the weekend is probably the most frustrating thing, as it probably is with anything. And that doesn't really allow you then that opportunity to bide your time, because waiting in a queue doesn't feel like biding your time, or it feels frustrating. It feels like I'm wasting my time. So it's not restful, is what I'm saying. So yeah,
I don't know how you found it, but this year I got in touch and said, "Can I get a press pass, please?" Da 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 da. And they said, "Absolutely." He sent me a press pass for Saturday, which is fine, but I'm there Sunday and Saturday and Friday. And I said, "But I need to go there on Friday because Airfix are announcing something, and I need to go there to film it and to interview people." And their answer was, "Oh yeah, but I'm not there on Friday." Well, that doesn't mean you can't issue a press pass. All a press pass does is to get me past the bloke on security. I don't need to meet the press officer to do that. I'm there on Sunday as well. Why are you only issuing me a press pass for Saturday? It's just bizarre. It's just.
It must just be you, Gary. They just issued me one for the weekend.
It's just like, why? And then of course it says entry from 8 till 8:30. So I went away to do some stuff, came back, and of course the bloke on the door saying, "Well, it says here you have to go in between 8 and 8:30. Fortunately, they were winding me up because they knew who I was. And I met them before and we were having a laugh. And he eventually said, "Well, if you made decent bloody videos, I'd let you in, mate. Anyway, how are you?" "Oh, yes, swine." But
so you're now seeing behind the curtain, people. This is creator issues, right?
Yeah, don't. Yeah, it's first world problems. But
I tell you, the only problem I had.
There we
go, guys. You're seeing behind the curtain. The only problem I had was that the event staff are part of the hall. They didn't know anything about the press passes.
Yeah.
I tried to go out to go to my car.
Yeah.
Well, actually, to charge my battery and stuff. And the guy was like, "Oh, you can't get out this way." I'm just like, "No, I can. I've got a press pass. My car is parked out there. I want to go out, charge my phone, and then come back in. Or we can go out, but you can't come back in." I said, "What? No, I can." It's like,
that's what a press pass does.
Yeah. I don't care who you have to contact to get it sorted, but
again, excuse me, sir. I think you'll find His Majesty's press.
And it's just like, "Oh no, you've got to have a wristband or a stamp." And it's just like, well, I could get either of those things. It's fine. I'm a member as well, but this kind of trumps it. It's like, my car's just there. I can see it.
I know.
So you do come up with a little bit against the. He was quite a little guy. He was the little guy syndrome. But again, first world problems.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, we got a few comments before we, because I realize we are up to time. But Mr. Divisio, once again, I did the whole weekend as an exhibitor. Oh, what were you on? Let us know. And it is a long weekend. For me, there was a 2-week prep for Telford. Then the actual stay is Friday to Monday in a hotel. It's long, but very much worth it. Yeah, and I think kudos to everybody that does it as a person with a stand. Obviously, I did it last year, fairly last minute, and it was still a hell of a lot of work. It's really exhausting as a weekend. And the people who fund the whole thing are the traders. So kudos to all of them, whoever they are, which I wasn't a trader this year, but kudos to all of them because they pay for the event. Yeah. If you are a member of the IPMS, which I recommend you are a member of the IPMS to go to the show, if nothing else. Say if you go for the weekend, it's cheaper to join the IPMS than it is to pay to get into the show. So it's a really good benefit. Then you can see the financials. You get sent the financials, and the traders pay for that event. So I mean, everybody does go and visit them anyway, but kudos to them all. It's a lot of work. Paul says the last 2 times I went, it was only for a day, more than enough for me. And I completely get that, Paul. I would say, however, if you go for 2 days, it's less tiring than going for 1 day. And the reason I say that is by 3:30 on the first day, I'd had enough. Right, I was saturated. My voice was dry, even though I had the water. I'd finished that, just talking to people, doing all of the filming and stuff. I hadn't done all the filming I wanted, so I knew I had more to do the next day. I just need to go back to the Airbnb and relax. The thing is, you can do that, right? If you're just there for a day, there's that pressure that says, I've got to stay till the end to get my money's worth. And if you're there for the weekend, you remember the IPMS, so you're not paying any more, you can do that, right? You can go back to the hotel. I actually considered at one point going to the cinema and watching a film just to get a complete break and then going back, which you can do. If you're there for 2 days, that's not an issue. And the cinema is literally 10 minutes walk away. I didn't, because basically there was only Tron Ares, which is garbage, on at the cinema. Otherwise, I would have probably gone. But yeah, I do completely get a day can be like really.
There's a missed opportunity for the cinema. They could be putting on classics.
They could, yeah.
You know, classic war movies or something. They'd be
Battle of Britain. Yeah, 619 Squadron.
Yeah.
Simon says might do next year to get the filming done in 1 day and then just enjoy the other day. Simon, I wouldn't recommend it. I tried to do that this year. It's too much. It's just way too much. With the press pass, you can't get. I got 1 haul done before the doors opened, so it's a nice idea. It doesn't work in practice. I only know because I've tried it. Oh, Matt! I didn't see Matt was in. Confirms that Gary is tall. So there we go. You've had
Thanks, Matt.
2-person confirmation.
Yeah.
Travis says Qatari have said an RAF P47 scheme will be in the first box.
Nice.
Nice. Very nice. No. Good to know that. And we've already had the comment on the Baran. So, okay, guys. Apologies if I didn't get to your comment. You can always post it in the comments below the actual video version of this once it's saved, and I'll try and get back to you. Well, I will get back to you on that. Otherwise, Gary, thank you so much for coming. It was great to see you at Telford.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
You are tall.
I am tall.
Confirmed, 2-point confirmation. Hopefully next time we'll get to, you won't be with a chef in your Airbnb, and we'll get to go out for probably a curry, right?
That'd be all right. Suits me.
Everyone else, thank you so much for joining tonight, and hopefully that's given you a few tips, clues, some feedback about how to approach Telford. Some of it might be a little counterintuitive. 2 days are actually easier than 1, but obviously that does come with the additional cost of hotel. But let me know in the comments below if there's anything other than what we've covered that you've thought of, any tips and tricks. They'll be helpful for everybody, I'm sure. And we'll see you on the next one. Next month, Luke is going to join me and talk about some Revell stuff. So
Cool.
That'll be the week before Christmas. So be a nice way to end the year, I think. So other than that, thank you guys. See you on the next one. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.